I think it was on one of these trips, I think, that I had my first trip for the man who's now the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker.
Whatever.
The man who's now the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and his wife. They helped me get started. It's all a matter of public record.
See, no. Let me be clear. First of all, President Clinton clearly was mistaken, and he corrected the mistake. I had never met Jeffrey Epstein. I was never on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. I was never on any plane with Jeffrey Epstein or with Ghislaine Maxwell. Never met her.
Former President Bill Clinton, followed by Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, all in the matter of days as continued focus on the Epstein files and the impacts that it's going to have on political futures. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and get notified when we go live for the Center Square. And yesterday we talked about several legislators that are pushing for a Epstein commission in Illinois to investigate things. And that commission, if the bill passes the legislature, would be comprised of individuals that the governor selects. And the governor now seeming to be kind of brought into this ongoing question of associates of Epstein. And it's because former President Bill Clinton raised his name. So here we are. We talked a bit yesterday about that commission that legislators are urging to have here in Illinois, but we also talked about Thomas Pritzker and how he does show up in the Epstein files with some communications back and forth with Jeffrey Epstein. We'll take a look at that. But you also have J.B. Pritzker showing up in the files, but only as, like, you know, getting mass emails about campaign events and things like that. I mean, I've got tons of emails from Governor J.B. Pritzker's campaign in my inbox, right? So that's where J.B. Pritzker shows up, but you have the House Oversight Committee in Congress that's been doing depositions. They're under oath Q&As with certain subjects that they want to get information from. Last week, they had Hillary Clinton in to answer questions. And then they also had Bill Clinton, the former president of the United States, in to answer questions. And it's widely known that Bill Clinton was associated with Jeffrey Epstein and was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. A lot of supposition around that, and a lot of, allegations that people are making against Bill Clinton and other, powerful people that are associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Well, Clinton was asked about it for about 3 hours. And then at the tail end of that 3 hours, we get this from the House Oversight Committee's deposition of former President William Jefferson Clinton.
You apparently took 26 flights on planes connected to Jeffrey Epstein. Was he on every flight you were on?
Was he on every flight I was on? That's a good question.
If you know.
What?
If you know, their flight manifest,
Yeah,
do you know?
There'll be a record of it, but I think he was, or certainly on most.
You think he was? Well, that's okay. Was Ghislaine Maxwell on every flight you were on, as far as you remember?
The same answer. I think she was, but there'll be a record of it.
Who did you normally bring on these flights? I assume, employees of the foundation, whatever.
I brought people who work with me, especially people who would have to follow up on the fundraising, or people who were involved in my AIDS work. I bought people who.
Just like I never go anywhere alone. You never went anywhere alone, right?
What? No.
We always have an
And
entourage.
I had the Secret Service with me, and then on occasion, I had people who had volunteered to help us and wanted to see what we were doing.
Right.
For example, I think it was on one of these trips, I think, that I had my first trip for the man who's now the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and his wife. They helped me get started. It's all a matter of public record.
So Clinton talking about a variety of flights, right? He was asked if on every flight he had on Epstein's plane, if Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell were there. He said he's not sure. The flight manifest would show that. He then talked about other flights he had taken. over to, for instance, Africa, part of the Clinton Global Initiative that, was taking donations and doing things with those dollars. Pritzker helping out with that. J.B. Pritzker helping out with that early on. And he said that much when he was asked about this yesterday at an unrelated event in Chicago.
See, no. Let me be clear. First of all, President Clinton clearly was mistaken, and he corrected the mistake, to his credit. And no, I had never met Jeffrey Epstein. I was never on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. I was never on any plane with Jeffrey Epstein or with Ghislaine Maxwell. Never met her. But you know who did? You know who palled around with both of them? Donald Trump did. Donald Trump is known to have spent a lot of time with both of them, and yet he still hasn't owned up to it and still hasn't been held accountable for that, and that we should do.
So Pritzker seeming to shift the focus from his name being brought up by Bill Clinton in association with questions around flights on Epstein's plane, and he also says that Bill Clinton clarified that and corrected that. Haven't been able to find like an official statement from Bill Clinton directly, either on video or a message, but a Clinton spokesperson did post this on X. President Clinton was simply giving an example of many people he traveled with to see the Clinton Foundation's work. Governor Pritzker joined a Clinton Foundation trip in 2008, not on Epstein's plane, not with Epstein, not with Maxwell. And again, that's a post from Angel Urena. But Pritzker was asked yesterday in some more detail about certain types of flights that he had, at least with Bill Clinton. Here's the governor yesterday.
Sorry, in 2008, there was actually a donated aircraft, as I recall, from Google. There were about 25 people on the aircraft, and they were all political types and people involved with the foundation, the Clinton Foundation, including Chelsea Clinton and other people.
And what about the 2013 trip?
I don't know whose aircraft that was, but that was not, we triple checked, that was not Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft, and there were other people on that aircraft as well.
Were you aware of the connection between Epstein and the Clintons?
Oh, no, I'd never even heard of Jeffrey Epstein until, obviously, the scandal that broke out in, 2019.
What was the purpose of those trips?
You've got Pritzker being asked about these trips that he would take and, the purpose of them. He says, well, I was, working with the Clintons and the AIDS work that they were doing over in Africa and so on. But interesting, he says, the 2013 flight, he doesn't know whose plane it was, but they triple checked and it wasn't Epstein. Some may question, well, how can you be certain it wasn't Epstein's plane if you triple checked, but you don't know whose plane it was? Again, just, the reactions from the governor being asked about it at an unrelated news conference following Bill Clinton's testimony to the U.S. House Oversight Committee. Again, you've got Pritzker trying to shift the focus here, saying that the Republicans are glomming on to former President Clinton's comments about J.B. Pritzker, because J.B. Pritzker's running for re-election in an election year, and there's questions of whether he's going to try to run for the White House. So he's a billionaire. He could fund his own campaigns. But here's the governor yesterday reacting further about this particular situation.
Well, naturally, the Republicans are trying to, it's a wag the dog. Let's, look over here, look over here. Don't look at the leader of their party, the leader of this country, who is a Republican, Donald Trump, who clearly is somebody that needs to be investigated, needs to be answering for his relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, with Jeffrey Epstein, and has done none of that. You saw other people testifying. Where is President Trump's testimony?
Question I'm sure Democrats will continue as more and more comes out about the Epstein files. Speaking of those files, you can go and look at stuff yourself. Go to the U.S. Department of Justice websites where you can see and search for all these files. You just got to click through a couple of times to make sure that you're above the age of 18, and you can search all of the files. And if you do a search for Pritzker, let's just go ahead and do this live. you find that there's a bunch of different data, emails in particular. Tom Pritzker pops up in more than a dozen different emails. Just looking at several of those, here's one. We'll start kind of backwards. Are you enjoying the boat? Jeffrey Epstein asks Tom Pritzker back in 2009. And Pritzker responds, and this is Tom Pritzker, not JB, Tom Pritzker. Your sources? Jeffrey Epstein replies, I'd have to kill you. And then Tom Pritzker says it might be worth it. Others, responding back and forth. He likes you, so I'm told. So interesting to see that email. You've got other emails going back and forth. And again, these are all part of the files that the Trump administration released through the DOJ. More questions here. This is an interesting one from 2012. Redacted plus boy not coming, Tom Pritzker says. Best guess on how many, I guess, PAX's passengers, 14 plus 2. 8 p.m. casual, how they dress, good, I left my tux at home. Other emails indicating, the same thing here. Have to take a pass. And then you get this particular photo that's part of a subset of documents that House Democrats released. It shows, looks like David Blaine doing a card trick. I believe this is Thomas Pritzker. That's Woody Allen, and there's Jeffrey Epstein standing off in the background there as well. Who's this dignitary? That it looks like it might be Ehud Barak. So again, these are just some of the stuff that's popping up from all of the documents that have been released as part of the document dump of Jeffrey Epstein. So this story is going to continue. You're going to see a lot of political hay made about this and a lot of reactions and a continued insistence from Democrats to say that President Donald Trump needs to testify now that you have a former President Bill Clinton testifying. So I don't think the story is going to go anywhere anytime soon, especially in this election year. But we'll cover it as it unfolds. Right here with the Center Square and Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being here, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell and wake up with us when we're live with Illinois in Focus Daily.